Good morning. Big Weir, roadtoroota.com with your morning horn of Z's, your sip of coffee. Um, People always ask me, what's the horn of Z's, Bix? It's from Boontling, which is a language in Northern California, an old language. It's one of the only languages that was invented in the United States. I think it was back in the late 1800s. But horn of Z's means cup of coffee in Boontling. My brother claims it's sip of coffee. I just call it the cup of coffee or the sip of coffee or whatever you want to call it. It's got to do with coffee in the morning, and that's why I called it that. And every time someone asks me, it reminds me that people that have not been on the road to Ruta since the early days, really have to catch up fast, because the road to Ruta theory is that there are people behind the scenes working within the government, within the Federal Reserve System, and within the U.S. Treasury, working to take out the banking cabal and those evil criminals that have been ruling our lives for so long. And I'm not just making it up. And I was talking about this long before Q came around. Go to roadtoroota.com, and the very first thing you'll see is this thing called Discovering the Road to Ruta. It's a YouTube presentation that covers kind of the first part of what the road to Ruta theory is, and it goes through documents within the Federal Reserve System showing how they're going to take out the banks. Isn't that amazing? Within the Federal Reserve System. So check that out. Also check out my presentation at last year's Acapulco conference, Golden Oldies to the Crypto Future, how the evolution of this battle for our freedom has changed. The monetary battle is no longer about going back to a gold standard. It's about going on to a crypto standard. Doesn't mean that gold won't be valuable. Doesn't mean that silver won't be massively valuable and absolutely needed in a high-tech future. What it means is that there is a more efficient and sound and honest, except for some people within it, an honest way to run our monetary system using cryptocurrencies and the blockchain revolution. So check that out. I do believe right now the good guys are in the process of taking out the crypto criminals, the crypto cabal, which means we're going to have really volatile and shitty action in cryptos, which we've had all year. But it is absolutely focused on the crime that was committed from, say, September to December of last year. The artificial run-up of the cryptocurrencies through the crypto cabal with Brock Pearson, Tether, and Bitfinex, and the people involved there, Mark Collins Rector and Reese Collins and people like that. Most of the people who are hanging out down there in Puerto Rico were involved. I wouldn't say most of them, but there is the criminal cabal down there in that bank, the Brock Pierce's bank, Noble Bank, that supposedly owns and controls all the money from both Block 1, the EOS ICO, as well as Tether. And I think the good guys are coming in on them very closely. The Department of Justice has already announced that they're doing an investigation into the manipulation of the price of Bitcoin and Ethereum. And they announced that, meaning they're going after them, and which is good news. We need to take these criminals out. But in the meantime, we are fighting the fights right here in the silver market. Ted Butler is an amazing human being, a great researcher, and the amazing thing about Ted Butler is that he understands and sees the manipulation, the obvious silver manipulation, from the standpoint of the government's own records, the CFTC Bank Participation Report and Commitment of Traders Report. That's what Ted uses to prove manipulation in the price of silver. He has proven it time and time again. The CFTC, the SEC, and the Department of Justice have done nothing to stop it. I have proven it many times on the other side, on the flip side, on the computer rigging side. And the Department of Justice does nothing about it because it is an official manipulation. The control of the price of silver and gold is absolutely necessary in this unbacked fiat monetary system. When they want to get rid of the fiat monetary system, which is, I think, coming down the pike very fast, then they will allow the price of silver to be free. But Ted Butler just released an article called "The Next Run to $50 and Beyond." If silver was freely traded, I believe it would trade well higher than the price of gold right now, because it is more rare than gold and more necessary than gold. There's about 6 billion ounces of gold in the world, and there's probably less than that of silver, maybe 5.5 billion ounces of silver. And there's a lot of hidden gold out there that I have discussed many times, probably 10 times the amount of the official numbers. So I would say there's really 60 billion ounces of gold and only 5.5 billion ounces of silver. But that's yet to be shown. I've proven it many times. If you read Sterling and Peggy Seagrave's book, Gold Warriors, you'll walk away saying, oh my God, we've been lied to on that front too, on the gold front, how much gold is available. Now that doesn't mean gold is going to go down in price, not at all. There's a lot more unbacked fiat monetary instruments to weigh against gold. So I think gold, yes, gold should be $20,000, $30,000 an ounce, but so should silver. So in a free market, and we don't have those yet. Keep an eye on Veritasium. Reggie Middleton is veritizing gold and silver, just beginning that process. I think the government, as in Cliff's data, will come to Veritasium and say, hey, help us out of this problem we have with our markets. And Veritasium is a peer-to-peer solution to that problem. Yes, Veritasium's trading in like $25. Ridiculous. But it's really hard to get your hands on any. That's the other problem about Veri. Nobody wants it on their exchange because they know that Veritasium could replace that exchange. So they don't want to help out the competition. So absolutely, Veritasium is a must hold. A lot of you Road to Ruta guys already hold Veritasium. And make sure you hold it in your own possession. The exchanges will be gone. With the crashing of the banks and the monetary system, they will be gone. And they won't come back. Not in that form. So if you don't hold it, you don't own it. Just like silver. If you don't hold your own silver in your own hands, not in a bank, not in a safe deposit box, in your own hands, you don't own it. And you have a promise from someone who won't even be in business when the banks collapse. So absolutely take possession of everything that you have. Including in online wallets, and just get it into your own possession on Trezor or a paper wallet or however you can secure that you're the only person who has access. And you're not relying on someone like Coinbase to be in business after the banks collapse. And you're not relying on Kraken or Gemini or anybody to stay in business. And you're not relying on Kitco or Perth Mint to hold your metal. It has become common sense and obvious by now. And I'll show you a Zero Hedge article that shows we are absolutely heading down the pike of a big, big banking problem. But first, Ted Butler, silver run to $50. Twice in the past, the price of silver has risen in a short period to $50. It happened in 1980 during the Hunt brothers' manipulation, and again 3 decades later in 2011. Yes, the Hunt brothers was a manipulation up, but, and here's the big but, JP Morgan has 8 times as much silver, physical silver, as the Hunt brothers had back in 1980. Why does the CFTC allow that to happen when they shut down the Hunt brothers in 1980? That's a good question for the CFTC, this new CFTC with Mr. Giancarlo. Get off your ass and stop the manipulation. You know exactly what's going on. And same with the cryptos. Get off your ass and stop the manipulation. This is just, it has become so ridiculously obvious that all our markets are rigged with computers and derivatives. We don't have free markets in the United States. That's the saddest thing. You know, we stand up there and wave our flag and say, we're the greatest country ever. We have so much freedom. And we're seeing our freedom go away because of market manipulation. Because you've allowed these people to control our markets for over 100 years. It is insane what is allowed. But hey, you know, when you're an investor, you gotta go in with your eyes open. And eyes open is every single market is manipulated, controlled, and used for some purpose or another. And yes, in 2011, absolutely, I've proven it time and time again that JP Morgan was the entity rigging the price of silver. When they put Bill Daley as President Obama's chief of staff in January of 2011, Bill Daley got in there. That was all about silver. They ran the price of silver from $20 to $50 and then slammed it on May 1st. Absolutely 100% manipulation. And then when Bill Daley left, exactly 1 year later, they had brought the price of silver back down to $20 and started the artificial bear market that silver is in today. It destroyed sentiment, it destroyed people's lives, and it was 100% coordinated by JP Morgan. Go to roadtoroota.com, look up JP Morgan's Operation Silver Slam, and you'll see exactly how they did it and why they did it. That's why there's so many fingerprints of manipulation on the cryptos right now. And if you're on Private Road, you'll know just how important Jamie Dimon's latest comment was, that he thinks the cryptos are a crock again, right? When was the last time he said that? September of last year when they were loading up on cryptos. And he just said it again. So one of those gigantic signs that the official manipulation will be ending is #1 worst trader in the world, worst poker player in the world, Jamie Dimon, comes out and says, oh yeah, the Bitcoin is dead and it's all dead. That means his guys are buying. And remember when he said, oh, I'm real interested in Bitcoin? That was mid-December of last year when it was topping. So you want to get rich? Do the opposite of what Jamie Dimon says, because he's the worst poker player in the history of the world. All right, prior to the run-up in 2011, Ted wrote that a move to $50 was more than possible since it had already occurred, and that proved such a move was possible. Something that has happened twice before can certainly occur again. One thing that makes it probable is that there was 3 times the amount of silver above ground in 1980 than there is today. Wow. So 3 times the amount of silver, and yet the CFTC allows JP Morgan to hold 8 times the amount of physical silver that the Hunt brothers held. Interesting. If it was illegal then, and there's 3 times as much back then, why it should have been illegal at what, 330 million ounces? No, they're 33. It should be illegal at 33 million ounces for JP Morgan should not be able to hold that much silver. If you believe in, that the Hunt brother takedown by the CFTC back then was according to commodities law, then at 33 million ounces, JP Morgan should be hamstringed and charged with silver price manipulation. But no, they don't have 33 million ounces. They have 850 million ounces. Where is the CFTC? Mr. Giancarlo, give me a call. Let's have a talk. I had a talk with Bart Chilton before. And he, oh, yeah, Bix, I know. We all know the silver price is rigged, and I'm going to stop it. Look what happened. Nothing. Bart. Still love you, Bart. I know you're still fighting for us. But it was a letdown. And you know Bart would say, if he was honest? He'd say, we had to keep the system going. The amount of death and destruction and social chaos would have been too much for the country to take. Well, that's the problem. That's how we got into this problem in the first place. Is that you allowed this shit to happen for so long, and now it is so out of control, the crash is going to be 50 times worse. Anyway, what do you do? One thing that makes it probable is that there was 3 times the amount of silver above ground in 1980 than there is today. The 6 billion ounces that existed in 1980 has shrunk to 2 billion ounces of industry standard 1,000 ounce bars. Yeah, there's still 6 billion ounces, but what Ted's talking about back then was the standard bars. And yeah, there's 6 billion ounces above ground right now, or more. I think there might be more. Actually, there's over 60 billion ounces of silver above ground. Here's the problem, and it's a big problem. About 54 billion of those ounces are gone as in not gone, they're still on planet Earth. But they're just in little tiny specks in electronics equipment that's been thrown away or lost and used up in bombs and all that stuff. You're not going to get that back. There's about 6 billion ounces. Nobody really knows the true number, but I would guess about 6 billion ounces. That is potentially could come back to the market if you melt down every piece of silverware, every silver goblet at every church, and that's not going to happen. And what it would need is higher prices, obviously. Anyway, okay. It is nothing short of extraordinary that there is less than a third of the world's silver inventories remaining today than there was in 1980, while the prices remain far below the peak it reached back then. In 1980, there was less than 3 billion ounces of gold in all forms above ground throughout the world, the cumulative production of thousands of years. Today, 38 years later, the total amount of above-ground gold has doubled, thanks to an explosion of gold mine production. While silver mine production has similarly exploded over the past 38 years, there is much less silver around now. The explanation for why there is so much less silver and so much more gold is that silver is a vital industrial commodity, consumed in a wide variety of applications while gold is not. Silver lost its primary consumption use, photography, due to digital displacement, but despite this loss, a myriad number of new uses powered silver's continued consumption. Unlike silver, the price of gold is substantially higher than it was in the peak in 1980. There is no minimizing the powerful dynamics in place for the next move higher in silver. That move should extend far beyond the $50 barrier in the past, and when the move starts, it will most likely unfold much quicker than the previous big moves. When it occurs, most observers will be dazed and confused. The principal dynamic of the coming big move in silver and gold will be the role of J.P. Morgan. Over the past 10 years, as a result of its government-assisted takeover of Bear Stearns, J.P. Morgan has been the dominant futures paper short seller on the COMEX, becoming so powerful that it has compiled a perfect trading record, never once taking a loss and amassing many billions of dollars of trading profits. As remarkable as this unblemished trading record of the past has been, it actually pales in comparison to what J.P. Morgan has been able to accomplish in the physical market. It has used the highly depressed price it largely created to accumulate on the cheap 750 million ounces of physical silver and 20 million ounces of physical gold. That would be two of the largest, obviously the largest physical silver holding in the world anywhere. And they have the largest short. That's the power of derivatives and manipulation, and no limits to the amount of silver that J.P. Morgan's able to accumulate, because the CFTC has dropped the ball. They never held the ball. Let's be honest. The CFTC and the SEC were created in the early 1970s to run cover for the manipulation, not to make sure the markets are freely traded, but their job is to run cover for the manipulation. And I've proven this time and time again. Was it George Painter, the CFTC judge that retired, finally quit, and said, this is a completely rigged game, wrote a letter, this is completely rigged. What the criminal people at the CFTC say? Oh, he's kind of insane now. He left because he's kind of insane, and we don't believe what he's telling you. Absolutely insane. So anyway, Ted, smartest guy in silver, smartest guy probably anywhere when it comes to analyzing government data, and he uses just government data. He sends every one of his letters to J.P. Morgan because he doesn't want to get in trouble. He says, I'm accusing you of this, please respond. Because it's all here in the data. You look at the government, the COT data and the bank participation report data, it's all there in the data. And, why hasn't Jamie Dimon and friends sued Ted Butler? Because it's all there. There's nothing. Ted is just showing people that the manipulation is obvious. All right, so yes, silver, still great story. One of these days there'll be a silver slingshot. The price has been suppressed for probably since the Opium Wars. in the 1850s by England. And I've gone through that at the Road to Ruta. I don't do much in silver these days because, how many times can you prove that it's manipulated? And I still hold my silver, absolutely, but it's kind of like, is there anything new to discover in the manipulation of the price of silver? There's not much. It's all proven time and time again, and I would say in gold as well. But so you prove it. Look at the Sterling, the Seagraves, Peggy and Sterling Seagrave. They spent their whole lives dealing with this and researching it, and thousands of documents, and you get the documents behind the Gold Warrior stuff, and you're like blown away that there's so much secret gold out there. But what does it do? I mean, they spent their whole life doing it and proved it time and time again, and yet nobody does anything about it. Nobody cares. Nobody cares because you're not allowed to care. And it's sad to see that in the United States, that our markets are so rigged. But we fight the fight. I'll keep fighting the fight for silver. Ted is knee deep in it still, and bravo to him. He proves it weekly in his. If you guys haven't signed up for the Butler Research Report, that's a good one. It's two reports a week, and it's really good. I've been a member. I've been a member of Ted since he came out with it. I don't remember when he first started. It's more than 10 years ago. Probably I've been following Ted since 2000. But he was writing for free back then, and everybody's got to make a living. And then he started his own Butler Research, and that's if you're interested in silver at all, that's the report to invest in. Also, David Morgan's Silver Investors, always an excellent read. Here, David will be down in Acapulco again, so I get to hang out with him. Really good guy. All right, moving on to cryptos. Speaking of really good guys, here's our buddy Charlie Lee. Now, a lot of people had talked about Charlie putting this tweet out on July 17th. There will be at most 21 million Bitcoins in existence. There isn't even enough BTC to go around for every millionaire who owns one. So before you buy any other coin, Litecoin included, try to own at least one BTC first. Once you have one BTC, buy all the shit coins you want. And he cracks up. A few things. Number one, it is amazing. Yeah, 21 million Bitcoins, BTC will be in existence. 21 million BCH will be in existence. And that's 2140 is the time frame. But what's kind of silly, and I've harped on EOS so many times, but I ran the numbers for EOS, and in 2140, when there's 21 million Bitcoins in existence, there'll be 350 billion EOS in existence at the current 5% compound rate of inflation. I mean, why don't these computer programmers run the numbers? 350 billion. And now they're saying, oh, yeah, but that can change. That can change, when it's voted differently. We can get rid of it doesn't have to be 5%. It could just be 1%, which is still compounded. It's still huge. But these guys can vote themselves more money. The block producers and the people who own the majority of the EOS tokens, the crypto cabal, as I call them, can vote themselves more EOS tokens whenever they want to. It is insane. And that insanity is going to prove out over time. So in 2140, when Bitcoin finally hits 21 billion coins, EOS will hit 350 billion. And it's only 1 billion now. So that is called massive criminal stealing, hyperinflation. Stealing it's the similarities to EOS and the central banking system of the United States of the world is very crazily similar. So 120 years from now, you're going to see EOS be worth kind of what the dollar did in the last 120 years, or at least 110 years since the creation of the Federal Reserve. Go from $1 down to worth half a cent, because it is a massively inflationary setup that they got. And they'll say, oh no, that'll change. Well, it hasn't changed yet. And you can vote it to do anything you want because you're 21 people voting and colluding together. Anyway, but now as to the question of why Charlie Lee said this, Charlie Lee, Litecoin, and Bitcoin are joined at the hip. Absolutely. It's even, look at the top of his Twitter account. Bitcoin and Litecoin joined at the hip. Absolutely. And Litecoin benefits from all the work that goes on behind the scenes with Bitcoin, the programming, the Lightning Network, the atomic swaps, and Charlie Lee's knee deep in that. Bitcoin people like to say, "Oh yeah, we like Litecoin because it's the it's the test net for Bitcoin." Yeah, but it's also a lot better than Bitcoin in various ways. Bitcoin wants to lock itself up, be the safest cryptocurrency out there, which is great. Whereas Litecoin wants to be the most useful currency out there, useful cryptocurrency out there. So it'll be first to fully adopt the Lightning Network, fully adopt atomic swaps. And when it is necessary, when we do need a means of exchange, when the banking criminals go down, Litecoin will be standing there saying, "Hey, I'm the perfect choice." And that is the holy grail, in my opinion, of cryptos. That's why Satoshi invented it, because he knew the old system was dying. And he knew that gold wouldn't work. It's too bulky, and all the rich people own all the gold. So there you have it. Really interesting. But here's another interesting article about Litecoin. There's one almost daily. But this is Litecoin goes text message introducing LiteIM. Since day one of Zulu Republic, we've been driven by a vision of what the world might look like if the founding ideals of the cryptocurrency revolution were actually realized, which is a means of exchange. A world where everyone, regardless of technical proficiency or how free their country of birth happens to be, can benefit from the unprecedented financial agency brought by decentralized peer-to-peer value exchange. Today, we take that vision one step closer to reality by introducing LiteIM, a new project from Zulu Republic aimed at expanding cryptocurrency access to a wider population than ever before. LiteIM brings Litecoin services to anyone with even the most basic mobile phone, regardless of whether or not they have access to the internet. With a simple Telegram message or SMS message, LiteIM users will be able to interact with Litecoin blockchain, sending and receiving funds from anywhere in the world where cellular signals can be found. Oh, that's anywhere in the world, almost. That's awesome. Really cool. And you're going to see a lot more of this stuff because Litecoin is the right coin for a means of exchange. And that's also the hook to my new song. Litecoin is the right coin for a means of exchange. Yes, that will be debuted at the pre-party. The song's turning out awesome, and even the lyrics are really. And I will release a recording of it after the party. We're gonna record as much of the party as possible. So, absolutely, Litecoin is the right coin to hold if you believe in Satoshi's vision of peer-to-peer cash system. And we're going to need it. We're going to need it when the banks collapse. And let's talk about banking collapse. First, this one, a buddy online gave me this. Does it look like the housing market in Toronto is topping? Absolutely. Look how far it has to fall. Housing is an interesting thing. If you don't have banks, if the banks collapse, these prices will collapse 90 to 95%. The value of housing is 100% contingent upon the ability of the banks to lend. And we have seen that time and time again. 2008, when housing prices crashed, they crashed because it was so hard to lend because the banks were not lending. They were freezing up, remember? Had they frozen up, you would have seen a 90 to 95% drop in the price of houses because no one would be able to get a loan. And very few people could ever buy a house with cash. So yes, we are starting to see that. Again, get ready. But here's the biggest thing going on right now. Look at Zero Hedge today and think about this gigantic transition from the old system to the new system. The biggest thing is not so much that the new system is so great. It's very young. The biggest thing is that the old system is so bad and being held together with Scotch tape. And when these banks go, they're all interconnected with derivatives, and they have the same customers, and they all hold the same assets. That's why asset prices go up in good times. Everybody's buying the same thing. You know, you go to your investment advisor, and they're going to put you in the same thing that the other trained investment advisors will do. That's great on the way up. Congratulations, you've done a great job. On the way down, everybody's selling the same asset, including the banks. That's why we have massive implosions, and that's where we're headed for. I'm going to run through the zero hedge because it's so bad all over the place. It's effing a bloodbath. Emerging markets collapse as Turkey tantrum spread. Liquidity has disappeared. Like I said, everybody's selling the same assets because everybody got in the same assets. Investors are missing the midterm market risk. Investors ignore the U.S. midterm so far. It just goes on and on and on down here. Hold on. There we go. Turkey meltdown. Lira implodes as panic sellers spark global contagion. That is a wrong headline. The lira implodes because Steve Mnuchin clicked the mouse. Unlimited derivatives on currency trading from the U.S. Treasury and the Fed. That's how it's done. Out of the New York Fed and the Treasury Trading Department, the U.S. Treasury has a floor in the basement of computer trading, computer rigging. Absolutely. And that's where it's done, along with the New York Fed, the other rigging. And they collude together and say, okay, when are we going to smash the lira? Trump said we got to take him out. Click of a mouse. That's all it takes. Then millions and millions of derivatives go sell lira, and then they tell their banking buddies around the world. That's how manipulation works. Poor guy in Turkey's got no chance. Turkey's agony explodes as Trump doubles steel tariff, aluminum tariffs. Just when you thought it couldn't get any worse, there was a Trump tweet. Yeah, this is war. It's been war for a long, long time, financial war. And just hang on tight. The only way you can survive this is to get out of the system 100%. Core inflation soars at fastest pace since 2008. Yeah, inflation, yeah, but see, that's the thing. Any government number is rigged, and they lie, and they cheat, and they steal. So, you know, who cares what core inflation does? We don't believe it because it's not true. Lira plummets as Erdogan defies markets, urges citizens to exchange dollars for lira. That is just stupid. Erdogan is being an idiot by telling his people to exchange dollars for lira because it's the dollars, the physical dollars and the physical lira have nothing to do with how prices are determined. Prices are determined in the electronic markets, in the derivative markets, and who controls that? The Exchange Stabilization Fund of the United States of America. So goodbye, Turkey. They're going to destroy your currency just like they do people that don't toe the line, like Venezuela. Click of a mouse, ding, Venezuela's done. It's an amazing power to have when you think about it. Power of the mouse and unlimited derivatives and regulators that are there for running cover and not for making sure the markets are free. Russian Prime Minister, new U.S. sanctions would be a declaration of economic war. Remember, the U.S., China, and Russia are working together to take out the deep state. So I'm not worried about any kind of war with those guys. We're all on the same page. Imagine that, the three superpowers all on the same page. And the bad guys deep into Europe, deep within the United States, although they're being taken down sooner or later. It's a big deal. It's a big deal, people. Tesla going private, it's ridiculous. I mean, that whole situation. I don't even look at it. World markets roll as Turkey crisis, currency crisis goes global. Lord Rothschild, oh, here's an interesting one. Lord Rothschild. I can't believe this guy's still alive. Lord Rothschild. The New World Order is at risk. This is a quote. In 9/11 and in 2008 financial crisis, the powers of the world worked together with a common approach. Cooperation today is proving much more difficult. This puts at risk the post-war economic and security order. Good. Good. We need to get rid of the criminals. Get out. Good riddance. Mr. Rothschild. I care not who makes the laws if I get to print the money. And here's another great sign. As Open borders, populism spreads. Merkel and Macron's polls numbers plunge. Any country that opens its borders to anybody and everybody does not have a country. And that's fine if that's what your people want. If you don't have a country identity, you don't have a country. And I think, the interesting thing about the United States and Mexico, I have a lot of friends who are used to, a lot of Mexican friends who are used to the open borders with everybody coming up. A lot of them are saying now, I want to get out. The problem is when they build the wall, it's going to stop people from leaving the U.S. And imagine how many people will go back to Mexico if silver is allowed to trade freely. Mexico would be the richest country in the world because they have the most silver mines. Why don't the Mexican people understand this? I've talked about this so many times. You're going to put up a wall and you're going to pay for it because you're not going to want people to come in to take your riches. Come on, Mexico. Pick it up. Understand what's going on here. The world is stealing silver from you at $15 an ounce. That's the wealth of your nation is going out your door. You could be the absolute richest country in the world if you were smart enough to stop selling your silver and jump up and down and say, "End silver manipulation." That's the cry that should be resonating from every street in Mexico. Do not export any silver and stop allowing silver manipulation. And you will be the richest country in the world, and you deserve it after 100 years of market rigging. Absolutely. So come on, Mexico, pick it up. It's so obvious, and you should know this. You're the largest silver exporter, and yet you allow silver manipulation? It's just sad. So pick it up. No, the wall isn't meant to stop people from Mexico coming into the U.S. If silver is released from manipulation, the wall will be to stop U.S. people coming into Mexico. And then you guys will understand why the wall is so important and keep your national sovereignty. This is not rocket science. Dick Allgaier and I are going to play Pancho and Lefty. Pancho Villa. Look up your history. Read about Pancho Villa and his fight against the U.S. It's really interesting. It's really interesting. And so much has to do with silver. But, yeah, Dick and I are going to do a duet at the pre-Litecoin party. All right, let's keep going or I'll be here all day. Trader warns, algos have fooled us into thinking details don't matter. Root A, 4-trillion program. Root A, the basis of our financial system. Root A is a computer programming term. In Fortran, I think that actual term was invented by Alan Greenspan in the very early days. Not sure about that. But Alan Greenspan absolutely used it to implement and create our financial system. He blames himself for Y2K. He's the dude who programmed only 2 digits instead of 4. And that's why he became head of the Fed. Click, 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 market rigging, done. Going home. What an easy job, right? Easy job to control the world's economy and electronic system. All you do is click a mouse, then you can go home when you're done clicking. Crazy. Obviously, it's not that simple. It's close, though. War in front of me. New Chinese military video shows off-range of advanced weaponry. Yeah, everybody is it'll be interesting to see the advanced weaponry that is hidden. For example, I'll take my night vision goggles, look up in the sky, and see things flying around that could be in and out of the country in half a second, drop a bomb, and nobody even knew that thing was there. So there's massive advanced weaponry everywhere. There's EMP-type weaponry up in the sky. They can take out a city, a country. They can shut down the entire infrastructure, or the what do they call it? The electronic infrastructure of the world. We have that technology now, and if you have it, you obviously created it, and you put it into place just in case you need it. What would that do to the crypto? It would do to the world. Billions of people would die if there was no power, no water, no food, no nothing. And everybody says, "Oh, that'll end the cryptos." Well, that'll end the banking system. That'll end gold and silver as well. No one will take gold and silver. It'll be, guns and butter. But at the end of the day, when the power grid comes back up, voila, the cryptos are in the exact same place as they were. So yeah, so gold and silver will be in the exact same place. So I'm not worried about an EMP, at least for now. I think maybe 50. The next time things go crazy, after this craziness, the next craziness hopefully we'll get that 1,000 years of good times promised by the religions of the world. Yeah, good times would be nice, wouldn't it? World's largest cybercrime empire. I do want to say one thing about cybercrime and cryptos. Again, if you don't hold your cryptos in your own possession, you're screwed. Also, a lot of computers are infected with a virus that will steal your crypto wallet. If you haven't secured and created your wallet properly, and if you're not absolutely sure that you're the only one who has the key, the private key to your wallet, then most likely at some point they'll start siphoning off. But there's a lot of, especially I hear the porn sites, that's what McAfee says. You click on a porn site, you're automatically downloaded an infection on your computer that can read what you're doing. So make sure you create your offline wallets properly, because there's really bad people. My guess is it's the crypto cabal who does that. I think they do a lot of the bad things, but they're being taken out. So we'll see what happens. But make sure that you keep your private keys in your own possession. You're the only one who's ever seen it. It's never been on your computer. You've never looked at it. Oh, look, there it is. So that means you got to create your paper wallets offline, absolutely offline. Anyway, for more information on that, go on to YouTube. There's thousands and thousands of YouTube explanations and walkthroughs on how to create wallets and things like that. There will be more and more secure ways to do this. And there already are. Look at the past 5 years. There's already many, many different ways to secure your cryptos, and things get safer and safer over time. But then the criminals get more and more sophisticated, shall we say. All right, Europe's thinnest market in 18 years sends an ominous signal. When Europe goes, Deutsche Bank goes. When Deutsche Bank goes, 50 trillion in derivative goes, and it's over. So all this stuff, Deutsche Bank is invested in all these companies. I'm sure they're invested in Turkey as well. So there could be write-offs there, and they're too weak to handle that. And why did the government allow 50 trillion in derivatives? First of all, greed. Second of all, why did the good guys allow it? It's because they wanted to give the bankers enough rope to hang themselves. That's the whole thing behind Alan Greenspan and Robert Rubin and all the criminals back in the late 90s allowing for no regulation of derivatives. They knew the banksters would take that and run with it, make their billions and trillions of dollars, but at the same time they get enough rope to hang themselves. They'd create a bubble so big that it could destroy any market and every market, and that's what's happened. All right, so that's it for today. RoadToRuda.com. Make sure you go to Road to Ruda. Session's expired. And subscribe. Hit the subscribe, and that's what you get. 10 Theta tokens. Yes, I am very bullish on Theta. I think it'll do well. All the cryptos are down. So even the smaller coins are going to get nailed the worst, but they're also going to go up the highest. So I still love Theta, and I'm giving away 10 Theta tokens with a silver Ruda coin. Look at this coin, the coolest coin in the whole market. Each one is numbered. There's Ruda, there's the Cave of Gold in the Grand Canyon. Really cool stuff. Check it out. And that's it for RoadToRuda.com. This is Big Square. Give me a like. If you like what I say in these videos, please just keep liking me, because it means something to YouTube distribution, although they shadow ban me all the time. And it is what it is. If you play in their game, they get to make the rules. But if you give me a thumbs up, it'll help. Do your part to help Road to Ruda. I'll talk to you later.